Hi, I'm Dave with Paranormal Extraction, and guess what I get to do today? I get to interview Mike Ricksecker of Alaska's Mysterious Triangle. I mean, this guy's getting so huge. I'm so delighted that I could even speak with him today. He's a monster on many different cable networks, such as Travel Channel, History, and many others that are too many for me to list right now. But I just want to say that this guy is a rising star. He's all over the world. He gives tours to Egypt, tours. He just got back from Ireland. He's on his way up to beyond ancient aliens, if you ask me. So, with that being said, I'd like to go over and sit down and talk a little bit about this book in particular. And I would like to also add at this moment the new Advanced Crystal, the Paranormal Extraction, Supernatural Lightworkers. They are working on some new and exciting and extraordinary cases, including the true story of Melody's entity. They're gonna go scare themselves to death. Okay, here we go.
Oh, just put up with us. Yeah. Oh my God, this is the first time he's ever done an interview.
Yeah, it's all
poor guy.
That's awesome.
And also with you, okay? It's me, Zoe, sitting behind the camera. I am going to speak. And, you know, Dee's new at this. And you know what? You're a star. And I can't believe you're putting up with this. So, you know, you're absolutely incredible. So I'm going to let Dee take over and talk about your absolutely fantastic book that you can find on Amazon along with a ton more. There you go.
Boom.
All right.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right, Rick. Well, I mean, Mike, I'm going to go ahead and let you speak about yourself right now. And so tell, just like we do, usually we let everybody know about you, because this is about you. And so if you would please let us know your accomplishments and where we
So, well, first of all, thank you, Dee and Zoe, for having me on the show today. Absolutely appreciate that. And second time. So we had the Shadow Person episode before, and so I highly encourage people to go back and check that out after they get done watching this one, of course. I'm Mike Ricksecker, primarily an author. I'm also a researcher and a filmmaker. And I mean, I've been involved with the paranormal some way, shape, or form for really about the last 30 years. The writing's always been my passion, and the book in your hand, Alaska's Mysterious Triangle, that's my latest. Diving into all those weird, wonderful, crazy things that happen in Alaska, much like the Bermuda Triangle, that happen is what we call the Alaska Triangle as well. I've been on several of the television shows like Ancient Aliens, The Unexplained with William Shatner's coming up here. That were here in November, and several others, like the Alaska Triangle television show. So, we have the tours. So Egypt is coming up here in February for those that still want to jump on board. We still have some slots left, and then later on next year, we are actually doing a cruise up to Alaska. So feel free to join us.
I wore my Eye of Ra for you today. My Eye of Ra. Oh, great! Yeah. In honor of your Egyptian love for Egypt. That's a very interesting topic as well to me, because for some reason I've had an inner link or a feeling that I was there, and I actually lived in Egypt. There's so many synchronicities and things along my life, and things lately that I can pick up a rock and see certain things in it that's just laying on the ground. But to me, it associates with Egypt, okay? And another good, interesting point is my birth date is the latitude and longitude of the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Oh, there you go.
So,
nice.
I love that. So
that's great.
Yeah, that made me go into that esoterical world even harder when I happened upon that in the Time magazine, Mysterious Places. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So let's delve into Alaska's mysterious triangle.
Absolutely.
What-
What would you like to know?
I'd like to know, basically, personally, what prompted you to get up there besides just being up there and being in the Air Force up there for 3 years, or your lengthy time that you were up there. What was the main excitement? What drove you up there? Because there's so many topics that you have to bring you up
Right.
there. You know, the UFOs, the electromagnetic losing of planes, the fields, the cryptids, the native Indian tribe stories. I mean, it's such an interesting place, and so it doesn't have very much population to have so much interest. It doesn't balance to me, you know. And then with all the things that you've mentioned in your book, and then I also learned quite a bit, especially about conspiracies. So if you want to let me know, tell us, what got you up there, because I'd go up there right now and pack and camp out and see what I could see. That's how much I love the topics.
You won't be coming back.
Yeah, I wouldn't come back, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like you mentioned, the first thing that brought me up there was the Air Force. I spent 3 years up there, 1992 and 1995. Two of my children were born up there. So I have some strong connections going back, to the most specifically the Anchorage area, which is where Elmendorf Air Force Base is located at. So I hadn't been back in several years when basically I got a call from Wild Dream Films. They had seen some of the work that I had done on portals, like specifically
Right.
locations that I had investigated that had supernatural and paranormal activity, but also had reported portal activity. So they saw some of my work on that. We sat down and started talking. I had no idea what they were at first, what they had were asking me to partake in. Just okay, let's talk about these portals.
Sure.
And so we got talking for a little bit. And they asked me, well, what do you know about these type of things and activities in Alaska? And I was like, oh, well, you're probably referencing the Alaska Triangle, which I knew about having been up there.
Sure.
And they said, yeah, that's exactly what our television show is about. So it was a perfect fit because I'd been there and had those experiences, and so they asked me to go up there, talk with them. We interviewed on the side of Flat Top Mountain for an entire day. We did some experiments with the dowsing rods on that, which people can see in one of the episodes. So that was in 4 episodes of the Alaska Triangle, talking about that. And so having had the experiences that I did when I lived there for 3 years, those experiences that I had while filming the television show, and of course, my personal connection to there, it made sense for me to, okay, let's go ahead and we'll write a book on these topics and my experiences, as well as what others have experienced there, from like you said, the UFOs, the different creature sightings, the paranormal activity, the missing people. There's so much that goes on up there, and I got to witness some of that.
So on that note, that you were your basis of some sort of information. Where was the production company out of? UK or?
Yeah. Wild Dream Films is out of the UK. Yeah.
So that somehow they saw that you had some expertise, because you must have put something out there. Is how I conceived that. I
had a couple of YouTube videos on supernatural portals, and so
awesome.
they found those. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So they were doing their homework, and they found Mike, and that's pretty cool. So then you get this thing going together. You got the energy. You got a production team behind you that has the capabilities to get you there, tell your story. You meet them. That's pretty exciting to me. I used to be an entertainer, a singer, and but all I had to worry about was setting up my band, okay, and making sure I showed up for the first downbeat. But nothing huge to where you got to travel. I could handle it. Zoe and I could both handle it, of course. But just the idea of getting together on some ideas that you have and be approached by somebody that could make that happen, that must have been pretty exciting at that moment, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And anytime a production company reaches out like that and they have an interest in you, it's an exciting moment. Yeah.
Sure, that's pretty cool. Let's start with what I find the most exciting in your book, if you don't mind, and we can cover the other bases. Sure. But I really am, like I said, excited about the UFO or the UAPs, if you will. The amount of sightings that are up there to the populace of people. And you know, you have and I want to add on top of that, the triangle has its boundaries, but they're vague. But there's also a lot of USOs, you know, things coming from water around there, which is very intriguing for me as well. The way you wrote about a lot of incidences with people that were around water. And I thought that was kind of cool because you went outside of the vortex, if you will. But the water, to me, is also a vortex because they can actually go in that substance, you know, and go live down there, and we don't even know. So that's a hidden world on our world. And then in the mountain, like Mount Hayes, I love that because there's other mountains around. So if you could expound on when you got to those mountains, what were you feeling about? Were you there overnight? Did you get a chance to look up at the sky? Did you do anything? I'm sure you did.
Yeah, it's fascinating country out there, and anytime that you get that opportunity to be in an area, I mean, everything in Alaska is just bigger. You know, the mountains are bigger, the fish are bigger, the water's bigger, and so you mentioned USOs, and people don't think of Alaska. I mean, it's one of those, you look at a map of the United States, and they basically put Alaska in a little box in the corner, which really does it a disservice because Alaska is 2.5 times the size of Texas. It's huge, it's massive. And the amount of coastline along Alaska is greater than taking the rest of the coasts of America and combining it. So West Coast, East Coast, all that, combine it together, and it won't even match the coastline of Alaska.
Yeah.
You talk about Minnesota's the land of 10,000 lakes, right? Mm-hmm. Alaska has over 3 million. So it's just, it pales in comparison. So it's, a lot of places where these UFOs and USOs could be hiding. It's an ideal location. It's very remote. Like you mentioned, it's very sparsely populated. It's the entire population of the state of Alaska is about the same as the city of San Francisco. So you imagine taking all the people that live in San Francisco and just spread them out across Alaska. It's pretty wild considering how large it is. You have these really long, massive, huge mountain ranges. We have Mount Denali, which used to be known as Mount McKinley. That's the tallest peak in North America.
Right.
You have volcano activity up there. So there are a lot of these different things that happen up there that would provide UFOs and USOs cover that would allow them to do work virtually undetected. Yeah. And that's really kind of what's going on with Mount Hayes. Yeah. There's supposed to be, this is all through remote viewing. Yes. There's supposed to be a hidden base there within Mount Hayes that has joint operations between some sort of extraterrestrials and the U.S. military.
Right. Just like Dulce in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
There's another place that does the same. So the remote viewing guy was kind of an interesting thing because I just watched a program where a group of 3 fellas went in there and they brought a remote viewer in there to feel something that day, and I thought, that's pretty interesting. So the whole thing is Mount Hayes and Denali both inside of the triangle. I forgot.
Yeah, they're both inside the triangle. Yeah. And
I thought so.
and like you said, The boundaries of the triangle are big, and we would call it a triangle. We pick out 3 different points.
Sure.
And for Alaska, it's Juneau, Anchorage, and Utqiagvik at the very top of the state. So it's a massive area,
Yes.
188,000 square miles, which is larger than the state of California. So
Right.
it's a large area that we're calling the triangle.
Wow.
But, the activity doesn't work, in this perfect area that we've defined as a triangle. I mean, the idea of a triangle is basically honestly, it was a marketing ploy for the late 1940s for the book that was published about the Bermuda Triangle. That's when it started being known as Bermuda Triangles. Was the book came out on all the different strange things that happened in that area. So okay, let's call it a triangle. Let's give it a cool name.
Yeah, like you said, they borrowed it.
Yeah, they kind of borrowed it, but really, it extends outside those boundaries. It's really, you're talking about, very strange electromagnetic anomalies. And if you take just a magnet that you put on your refrigerator, it extends outward. So it's really like a globe of electromagnetic activity. So really, it's the triangle that we call it is really a more rounded shape.
Sure, why not? I agree with that. So, the feeling that there's so much action going on up there, and the excitement level that I could feel that you would have had when you touched down there to reunite yourself with that area. I don't know if you'd been back since the military, but just to be on a plane and then coming down where you're going to come into that vastness and that wilderness, and if opposed to touching down in New York or something where you see nothing but people and buildings, and that when you get where you're going, there's going to be a handful of you out there doing something with all this high strangeness going on out in the mountains, out in the wilderness. I would be the first feeling that I would get, that feeling of just being small, or what's the term I'm trying to use here?
Well, I was excited.
Yeah.
I was excited because it had been so long, a little over 20 years since I had been out there when we went up there to film. And so, getting up into that area, seeing the mountains, and you're looking down, and it's just absolutely beautiful country up there. And we filmed in May, so Anchorage at that time was warm. It was nice weather, but you just get outside the city, you get up into the mountains a little bit, and there's snow. And it was chilly and cold on the side of the mountain. So, but again, absolutely beautiful country.
Well, my dad wanted to go there before he passed away. That's where he wanted to move to. He lived out in Golden Valley here in the area, and that's where he wanted to go and do fishing, and that's where he wanted to do his last year. They'd been up there a couple times.
Yeah.
His daughter lived up there with her husband. So, so this all ties into some conspiracy thing, but the vortex, just the shape of a triangle is a vortex. I learned this in some of my research that you spurred me on to dig and dig. I've been digging, okay? I've been losing sleep because of you. Absolutely. So tell us some more about whatever you wish to talk about in this book. What was your biggest part of this book? Because there's a couple areas that are very, very interesting to me, such as the conspiracies and the cryptids a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There are a lot of areas to cover up there. So, those that, there are other books, like for the cryptids, I covered some, but there are other books out there. A fantastic one by David Weatherly that gets deeper into a lot of those different cryptids and, talks about, more of them. So I kind of did the highlight thing because there's only so much you can pack into a book when you're covering all of these different topics.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so yeah, the different properties of the vortex. I had a fun time just with the first chapter, going through the different properties of okay, what's a vortex, what's a portal, getting into like ley lines and flare currents and things like that. Those are different things that interest me.
Yeah, that little square thing you drew, that little graphic of the square inside the square.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. I had to study that for a minute. Okay, go on.
There you go. Yeah, and talking about, we got into time travel, which is a favorite topic of mine, and just trying to draw some different, connections between things. I mean, in my work, I always talk about the connected universe, that everything within our universe, on our planet, within our solar system, throughout the entire cosmos, everything is connected. And so, trying to address some different issues like, okay, the missing Douglas airplane from 1950, where did it go? It just disappeared into thin air. Never been found to this day.
Right.
Well, let's say, a lot of people believe that it disappeared through some sort of portal. Well, if it did, then where did it go? Right. And one of the things that I postulate is if these portals, I mean, sure, we talk about other dimensions, but can it open up doorways to other points in time? And if that airplane did go through a portal to another point in time, say 500 years in the past, and an indigenous person of the area, looks up and suddenly sees this massive airplane overhead, they're not going to think airplane. They have no context for it 500 years ago. They're going to think large bird.
Very,
very, very, very loud, noisy, large bird. So is this where some of our Thunderbird legends come from? So those are some of the different connections that I had fun making.
Cool. I saw that. It'd be nice to be able to weave people together and weave ideas together. Your idea about stacking pictures as far as being another time, like folding time. I assume you made the relationship to Einstein on the folding of the fabric of the universe. So you were like doing it like your life is a stack of photos that you kind of go through. You're making an analogy to a deck of cards or a deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I call it stacked time theory. So the idea that you take a location and everything at that location that has happened, is happening, and will happen are all happening concurrently. That there is no river of time, that it's more like this stack of photos, and you take, in each photo is like a moment. And so there are times in which we'll get a glimpse of another moment in time. We call something like that a time slip. And the idea that two of these moments within the stack happen to be vibrating at a similar frequency at that moment, and so we get a glimpse of of another particular time happening. What's interesting about that, it is kind of like a form of time travel, where we might be getting a glimpse of the past, and what's interesting is that person in the past would be getting glimpse of the future, or vice versa. So those concepts are really quite interesting, and I think we're having some of those types of moments there in the basement of the Alaska Command Building, when we were seeing some of this different shadow activity. So this kind of goes back to my work with A Walk in the Shadows, but I believe that what we were seeing there were other personnel from other moments in time, because they're really just kind of going about their business like we were.
That's interesting. Yeah, because that's the whole interesting thing about spirits or entities or whatever. They don't seem to be, they are in another fold. They're in a different level, or as you say, a time slip. Is what do you call it? The time slip?
Yeah, time slip. Yeah, in that case, yeah.
So I believe the same thing, and I don't understand it, but then you have movies like The Matrix where this kind of stuff can correlate like what you're talking about, even though it's done through a computer. We don't know if we're even here, like if this is a simulation that we're living. And
well, no, I do believe. Yeah, I do believe we're living in a simulation, but not like, okay, so the Matrix portrayed that from a perspective of technology, because that's kind of, computers have really become ingrained in our life right now. And I believe that, we are in a simulation, but not so much as a computer. I think it would be more something organic, biological, molecular sort of thing. And, if you look at, even our, ancient religions, we'll talk about, they don't use the word simulation, but the way they describe it, such as, the idea of reincarnation, that, we're here for a while, and then once we pass away, we go somewhere else, and then we eventually come back and we live out another life. It's like this cycle that's ongoing, which plays really well into the idea of something like a computer programmer logging in, logging out, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Even with Christianity, they talk about we're down here preparing to go on to another world. So the terminology that's used, the way to describe these experiences, is like a simulation. They just don't use the word simulation.
Yes, I love that whole topic. You can get very deep with that one. You got quantum theories and things that mix in there with all that, but that's real deep. Okay, so let's see. Another hot item in your book to me was the conspiracies chapter at the end, because conspiracies have weight to me. All the conspiracy theories, that I don't say no to any conspiracy. But when I learned about Boggs and Hybish. Okay, great. I knew I'd pronounce it wrong, but I knew immediately, intuitively, that those two particular people, whoever they went down with, it was the pilot and a co-pilot, it was something was fishy there. Just like what you wrote in the book. Everything that it entailed in the paragraphs that you put about either the Nixon or the Kennedy thing, and the Warner. Anyway, I believe.
Hale Box. He was the House Majority Leader at the time.
Yes.
And he had dissented against the Warner Commission, which was basically the commission that was put together to investigate the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
And he thought that their findings were preposterous, and he was very vocal about that. So there is an idea now. The plane that this was in 1972 October. A representative from Alaska, Nick Begich, and then an aide, Russell Brown, and the pilot Don Johns, took off from Anchorage, headed toward Juneau, and as they went through the Portage Pass, again, another one of these airplanes that completely disappeared. And they had thousands of people out there looking for them. It was a large search and rescue mission put together at that time. They utilized spy planes, and all kinds of material and personnel were used to try to find them. And to this day, not a single thing has been found. They've had other planes go down throughout the Portage Pass, but nothing's ever been found of that airplane. So, people wonder, okay, you have the idea of the Alaska Triangle plane into. Is this another one that slipped through a portal? Or, was this one where, Boggs had gotten too vocal and, something was done to the airplane and they covered it up? There was a individual who came forward some years back. He was basically confessing to all of these different crimes around the Anchorage area that he had committed over the years. I guess he was getting up there in age and was going to go soon. We don't know his name because everything's been blacked out within the documentation.
Redacted?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
so,
said
but
that.
he was.
I read that.
Yeah, but he was involved with a lot of organized crime, and one of the stories that he told was concerned the Boggs Begich plane, that he was hired to put a package on that plane and just let it go. And he did not know at that time what was within that package, but some years later, some time went by, and he was told that it was actually an explosive. Now, again, no wreckage of this plane has ever been found, so if there was an explosive on the plane, you would think that there would be pieces of this all over the place.
Right.
Unless if you go down the conspiracy theory route that, yes, the pieces were found and they just covered it up and said that they never found anything.
Right.
So there's a lot of different directions that we could go with this disappearance.
Yeah, I totally agree. Or they just flew off in a completely different area and no one knows them because they were being threatened for their lives because they were going to try to shut down the Federal Reserve. No, I think that's great.
People missing.
Oh, and then there is quite a large little topic that I would also like to discuss, and that is, with such a large state that Alaska is, okay, and people going up there, I mean, the percentile of people that get up there and the percentile of people that go missing up there is, there's something crazy vortex, conspiracy, alien thing. That, I think that's what I wanted to draw it all together. Thank you, Joey, for reminding me of my crescendo. Can I hear what you have to say about 3,000 people a year missing, going missing in Alaska?
Yeah, the numbers are, since 1988, 16,000 people have gone missing. Now, we've been throwing that statistic out there for a couple of years now, so it's only, of course, increased since that time, which is, quite a large number, again, considering that the entire population of Alaska is about equivalent to the city of San Francisco. If 16,000 people went missing in San Francisco, just saying that this one city, that would shock you. It would absolutely shock you. So this is a very large number. And, many of these people, sure, there are people that get kidnapped. Some people just, get lost in the woods because it's so vast up there. But others, very bizarre. We've talked about some of these missing airplanes already. Others, there was one individual, his name was Michael Lemater, very, very public event. It was part of the Mount Marathon race about 10 years ago. And just like all the other runners, he went, up the mountain right in the middle of the race, never came back down. Nobody knows whatever happened to him. They sent out search parties, thinking, okay, did he fall off the path? Did he, get hurt and, dragged himself off to the side? What happened to him? Nothing. He just completely disappeared.
Yes.
And what's interesting is, there are some people that, that do eventually come back. They are found after going missing. And when they come back, you hear some really interesting stories, where they talk about, I was just walking along the path. I heard something off to the side in the woods. I took 2 steps out into the woods to see, what was going on out there, and then turned around to the path, and the path was gone. And they were suddenly missing in the woods. So it makes you wonder, okay, did they get teleported to somewhere else in the woods? What happened there? Or, was it something like, an alien abduction with missing time? Because you hear these sorts of stories too, where all of a sudden, somebody's missing time. They find themselves in a location that they were not previously, and it ends up tying into these different abduction cases. So, is that what happens to some of these people too? Are some that went missing still, out there with, the extraterrestrials, or even some sort of interdimensional being or ultra-terrestrial,
Yes.
and are not among the ones that were returned to us?
I totally agree on that. I think there's something there. And I did a little research, like a lot of research actually. But here's one of the other stories to add to the story that you had there about the runner. A couple of guys went camping up at Mount Hayes, and for some reason one of the characters or the duo separated himself, and I can't remember the exact reason. He went up to do some task or whatever he's doing, and then when he came back down to camp, his partner had completely disappeared, and they'd had a tent and they were camping there. This was their camp, and he was just gone. So, and I don't think it was the time. I don't think the dude had any capabilities of doing it in the weather that they were in at that time to go take off, and they were together. So that was another thing where it cinched it for me. And now your running story, your guy on the mountain running ahead and being with a group of people just disappears. Well, that's where the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, the Alaskan Triangle for me really is quite a powerful place with so much going on there. I don't even know how you got it all in the size of book that you have there, but you put it down nice and clean. and covered all the bases on things that are happening up there. But that one with the missing people, and they're just gone, Mike. That's the one that really gets me the most, because I tie it together with the UFO thing. Somehow,
it's difficult because these families, they don't get any closure. They don't know what happened to their loved one. If they're dead, they might still be out there alive somewhere.
Yeah.
What happened? They really have no idea. All kinds of different thoughts go through their minds. Maybe they got lost, maybe they survived for a while, eventually died. Or again, are they still out there somewhere? Did somebody kidnap them? They don't know what happened to them. They just want some closure, to get a final answer. So it's very, very difficult for the families.
I could imagine. It's like your child going out on a bicycle and not coming back home.
It's very much like that. Yeah.
It would be traumatic. It would be beyond traumatic.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
With all those people that have disappeared so far, do you know in your experience of what you're talking about right now, if anybody's followed up with families that have had people go missing, like say in the last 10 years or so? Have you heard anything like that? I'm very interested to know what you just said, what the family.
Yeah, I mean the families want some sort of closure. Their concern is that for a hot minute, the press is all over. Such and such a plane went missing, or so and so is, we don't know what happened to them. Maybe they're out in the woods somewhere, and there's only so much coverage that they can give for a short period of time before the readership or the viewership falls off from that. So the coverage it's short-lived, and if they don't find the person right away, then the coverage drops off, and you have a family there that's saying, hey, don't forget about my loved one. They're still out there. Can we still talk about that? And that's and that's the concern with the families, is their loved one ends up getting forgotten. And they wish that. So there is Alaska has a missing persons clearinghouse, which is an organization that was put together to try to keep track of the people that go missing up there. They've recognized that this is something that happens a lot up there in Alaska, and so they put together this organization so people can kind of come together and try to get some sort of answers.
What? That's amazing.
Mike, I have a question for you. I'm back here behind the camera, guys. Sorry. This is the first time we've ever done where I'm running the camera, but how do cryptids tie into this?
Yeah, you have a lot of strange creatures reported up there. Of course, Sasquatch is a big one. You have the Lake Iliamna monster, which is basically, they call it the Loch Ness monster of Alaska. It's a much bigger lake than Loch Ness, but kind of the same idea. Maybe it's a plesiosaur or something like that that is lived throughout all this time. You have the Kushtaka, which is sort of like the Wendigo stories that we have down here. It's this type of being that lures people out into the woods and either preys upon them or eats them, or turns them into another Kushtaka, which is very similar to, again, the Wendigo stories that we have. You also have stories of giants out there where they've either uncovered bones of large humanoid people that, of course, the bones always end up going missing. But what's interesting, it's something I really enjoyed in my research for that, was uncovering some of the Native Alaskan legends that were passed down through the Inuit. And I'm reading through this really broken English type of documentation from almost 100 years ago, where they had wanted to, document and keep preserved their different legends that were passed down. And when you read through their legends of the giants that had crossed over from Siberia, they talk about them, mating with some of the, regular women because they didn't have any people to mate with of their own, which created all these different types of human people. And it's like you're reading through it. It's very reminiscent of the Nephilim stories that you see out of the Bible or the Book of Enoch, and it's just, very, very interesting to me. Again, drawing those connections that, wow, we actually have Nephilim type stories in Native Alaskan lore. How in the world did those stories get up there? But it shows the connection of all these ancient peoples throughout all time.
Oh yeah, awesome. Are you gonna write Alaskan Mysteries Triangle 2?
Well, I could certainly add to the current book that I have. So I'll come out with a second edition at some point. You never know.
I know.
Right now, I'm working on some other books,
Yeah.
but it's a hot topic that people really want to know more about.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you think I should cover here? I think we nailed basically all the
Well, we covered a lot
all
of
the
different
chapters.
topics.
Sure. All the main one that I wanted, definitely we hit on. So, is there anything else you would like to add to this show and tell people about your trip to Egypt coming up that I would so love to go on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to Egypt in February. So Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour, where we're going to, we're going to a lot of places around Egypt, but there is going to be a focus on those locations that have reported Stargates at. So that's in February. We have the Alaska cruise next September as well. And I have my Connected Universe portal.com website, which is an online learning platform where we talk about a lot of these different subjects. There's some courses out there. The membership side gets you into weekly classes as well as all kinds of videos and information about a variety of different subjects. So
Nice.
come join us.
Check that out. Yeah. You got some great information and wonderful energy. So, with that, I guess I had a great time right now. And so for me, this was a great opportunity, and I want to thank Zoe for allowing me to speak to you, Mike.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both, Dee and Zoe. Appreciate it.
We're following you. We're in your wake. We're watching what you're doing. So.
Weird.
Oh, where do we find you, Zoe? Just reminded me again. The
No,
best ways to find you. So
best place would be MikeRicksecker.com. That's my main website. Yeah.
Awesome.
And of course, all my social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that TikTok. Yeah.
We got to know the webs. It's very important that they get
Right.
But we'll list them, of course. But it's nice for them to hear from you.
And they can get his book on Amazon. They can get his books on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you can get my books on Amazon.
That's the best way to do it. Just go on there, get it delivered. So
There
I
you
would
go.
like to thank you on behalf of Zoe, and we're gonna close out the show. And Zoe's thinking she's gonna be the cameraman right now. There's nothing to do. So I hope it comes off great. I hope I did well. I hope I represented you and gave you the respect that you deserve. I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing out there. So, and I'm gonna stay with you, and we'll be on your page soon as well, because I want to see what
Absolutely.
on the side stuff. So, is there anything else, Miss Zoe Stahl?
No, I follow him everywhere.
I know. Okay.
And I absolutely appreciate that.
No, I do. I follow him everywhere, and
Very
he's
important.
absolutely amazing, a rising star, and
Well, it's great to know that.
you will find out so much information about him and his personal life on Facebook. So for me, Mike, I would recommend people go there. It's just fantastic because you have also classes that you give. And so I just want to let people know that they can take your classes that are on there. You just got so much going on. I don't know how you sleep. I don't know how you sleep or have
Sleep, what's that?
Yeah, exactly.
I was saying that this morning.
So I know that we've covered where people can get definitely get a hold of you. And I just want to say I really appreciate you letting Dee come on today. He's never done this. And I really didn't know where to go with it because it's so scientific. But it is a fantastic book. I do know that by just reading through it. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for allowing us low ends to come in and
We are not low. We're the
You guys are fantastic.
and be on your show. So everybody, make sure you follow them. All the information will be on there. And I think we've covered pretty much everything.
I think so.
All right. Well, thank you both so much.
Okay.
You please enjoy your day and
Yep, you too.
Thank you.
All right.